Can I just say something? If you had told me in May that I would be sitting here in December saying that Google's had one of its best years in a long time, I would have said you were a little off it. Because if you remember at the time, I was busy complaining about the strategy with the Pixel Fold. I was busy complaining about the strategy that was upcoming with the Pixel 9. I was really annoyed about how they screwed up the launch of the Pixel 8a, making the Pixel 8 the same price and all the stuff that went on there. So I would have been dumbfounded by the idea that Google could have gotten it together as much as the company has in the last 6 months. But that's exactly where we are today. Because as you see again, the news story, Google is going to extend support on older Pixel devices that it did not promise support to for an extra 2 years. So the Pixel 6, so Tensor devices, which I really love, we'll get to that in a moment. Pixel 6 is now going to get up to Android 17. Your Pixel Fold is going to get a couple more years of support on the back end, so I think that really brings it to Android 18. It just it's not only a sign of good faith, it's a sign of confidence in themselves that they could deliver and optimize software for older hardware. It was a commitment to bring feature drops to older hardware. It means that your pixels become better values. There's just so much wrapped into that that's good, and it dovetails perfectly with what Google's done so far this year with the Pixel 9. And that is where the company took all those weaknesses and made them strengths. But there weren't weaknesses that people complained about or enthusiasts complained about or weaknesses on paper with benchmark scores or anything stuff like that. Google took the weaknesses that actual users complained about and went down the line and just stamped them all as improved. Display is brighter. Battery life is better. Overheating. Better modem. Better fingerprint sensor. Down the line. And what were all those things? Are all those things that show up in back-end reports or reviews or no. Those are all front-end user experience things that make the casual user's life better. And Google figured out that that's how you win. That's how you siphon off customers from other manufacturers. Because when the company went toe-to-toe with Samsung and iPhone and Apple with trying to put the best Snapdragon in there or the most whatever, it didn't work. It didn't work. The company was always an also-ran. This new philosophy of having a nondescript design, having the software be friendly, doing a lot of things that people care about in the front end is working. It's working. It makes Pixel devices a more attractive buy in carrier stores. And then when you add in this support, I had accepted that Pixel 6 was out of support. I had kind of given the company a pass, I guess, on the Pixel Fold because Android 15 was good on the original Pixel Fold. So I was okay with it. At least they weren't going to leave it in a bad spot, stuff like that. But Pusheen, we're not done yet. But the idea that Google was able to extend support to older devices is just a wonderful little cherry on top for a wonderful 2024. So this is from somebody who has kicked off a Team Pixel. I don't get the devices for free anymore. But I still have to give credit where credit is due because that was a wonderful move. It was showing a sign of appreciation for people. If you stick with a Pixel 6, first of all, the Pixel 6 after a year actually turned into a really nice device. So when you got them for half price or you picked up one secondhand and you got the updates, you were really getting a nice little phone there. I still like my Pixel 6. I think it's a fantastic device, especially for the money. Pixel 7, same thing. So I think you're adding extra value there, which is really nice. But Google had done a better job updating those devices. But the new ones are really spectacular. And that's something that I focused on in the back part of the year. I've seen a lot of chatter that, mostly from enthusiasts again online, that saying that, oh, Tensor's not powerful enough. And Tensor needs to be more powerful if Pixels are going to survive. And that there needs to be a pro version. There needs to be a Tensor that competes with the Snapdragon 8 Elite. And no, there doesn't. No, I promise there doesn't have to be one that competes with that. I promise that Google is fine with the strategy that's on now. And I think that Google is like this gifted child that we finally have focused in on something. We finally have the full concentration of what Google wants to do on Pixel. Because as we've seen with the Pixel tablet, that's not always a given. They can be all over the board. Sometimes they're working on a Pixel tablet. Sometimes, well, maybe it'll get some traction. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will, whatever. It's taken a long time for Pixel to come around. That's not the time that was afforded to the Pixel tablet. That's not the time that was afforded to any number of other Google projects. So we finally have Google focused in and doing the right thing with the Pixel devices. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Because all you're going to do is complicate things. Let's say you put in a Pro version, okay, for a second. Let's say you got a Pixel Pro. Pixel 10 Pro XL, whatever. That's got a Snapdragon 8 Elite-like benchmarks, and it's got whatever, and that's fine. What does that buy you? What does that buy you? Are you editing 4K videos on your 6.8-inch display with your fingertips on your timeline? I'm not. I understand that we like all these power in these devices, but that's just going to jack up the price. It's going to make Google charge more for pixels because it thinks that's what enthusiasts want. Oh, a high-end device. Okay, well, it's got more power now, but that's more expensive, so you got to pay more. But what's the problem when you have to pay more? What's the problem when the MSRP is as high as the other manufacturers? The margin for error goes to nothing. Zero. You have to hit every single mark. And whether you like Pixel or not, I think we could all admit that hitting every single mark and landing directly down the middle of the runway has not been Google's strength over the last few years. But you get away with it if you're $900, $1,000, when Samsung is $1,400 for the S25 Ultra. You get away with it. Live where they were living. Let Pixel do its, or let Google rather, do its thing at the price point that it was at. I think, do I want better gaming performance? Yes. But it seems like the rumor suggested that the Tensor G5 is going to have 15% added GPU performance. That would be enough for me. It's going to have ray tracing, which still isn't really utilized that much anyway as it is on gaming. That would be enough for me at that point. I think I could be plenty happy with those kind of performance enhancements on something like the Pixel 10. So let's be realistic about where Google is. Let's be happy. Let's celebrate the year that Google had because it was a really good one. Let's not try to complicate the lineup because Google doesn't give that kind of attention to its smartphones. Google doesn't really have a Samsung-like philosophy where they could put out 25 devices and somehow keep track of everything. I don't think you're going to get that from Google. A lot's going to slip through the cracks. It's not going to be done right. Something's going to go wrong. And then we're going to be back here a year from now and we'll be complaining about Google like every other year that I've done this. So I get that, people want a more powerful phone. I get that it's always nice. More power is always better. But I think for the meantime, we should just let Tensor do its thing. Let Google do its thing. Recognize that Pixel, or Google now with the Pixel, is focusing on the front-end consumer experience with stuff because that's how you win over customers. That's how you get market share, by making your phones better to use, easier to use, and more pleasant to use. And I think that's something that Google has finally understood. It took them a long time, but it's something that Google's finally understood, that if for enthusiasts, it's a little harder to understand, but they're really not selling the phone to us. They really don't care about us. If you're running all those Genshin at high settings, stuff like that, they don't really care about that. What they want is people who are going to use the AI features, who are going to use the photos, or use the cameras rather, and have fun, and have that be enough for them. In fact, they're even rolling back one of the photo updates that people hated, something in the photo settings or whatever. A lot of good stuff coming out of Google this year. Celebrate it. Enjoy it. Who knows if it lasts or not. But for right now, we can enjoy the good times. Don't complicate it. Leave Google alone. If you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.